The art of reading and responding to people. Ever wish you could read people? Not just guess what they are feeling, but know exactly what's going on behind their words and expressions. Well, stick around because today we are diving into the art of reading and responding to people, the ultimate skill that can change your life, your career, and your relationships. Whether you want to that job interview, decode mixed signals from a friend, or just stop being fooled by fake smiles. This video breaks down the science and the secret techniques that make you the master of reading people. Ready to unlock the hidden code of human behavior? The women who lied without lying. The retreat was set deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains, an exclusive 5-day immersion for the most powerful minds in politics, tech, and finance. Julian Marr stood before a wall of glass, watching fog cling to the treetops like breath on a mirror. He always chose locations that isolated the mind, stripped it of distraction, and softened the social mask. Here he could read people like pages in an open book. Until she walked in. Laravel entered the retreat 30 minutes late during a controlled group interaction meant to expose unconscious power plays. That alone irritated Julian. He didn't tolerate disruptions, but the moment he looked at her, irritation turned to confusion. Her posture was neutral, not submissive, not dominant. Her expression calm, unblinking, and voice evenly modulated. Micro expressions? None. She radiated stillness, not defensiveness, and yet, something about her presence itched beneath his skin. Julian tried his usual internal scan. Tone, eye contact, blink rate, nostril flare, micro twitches, shoulder dips, breathing rhythm. Nothing. No fear, no arrogance, no need. Just silence. In group of exercises, Ilira participated flawlessly, too flawlessly. Her responses followed the expected patterns, never too eager, never withholding. She let others take center stage. People gravitated to her, not with awe, but with an easy trust that unnerved Julian. It wasn't that she was faking, it was that she wasn't anything. She was a perfect emotional blank slate. For the first time in his career, Julian couldn't read someone. He wasn't sure if it was fascination or fear. That night, Julian watched her from the shadows of the lodge's observation balcony. She stood by the fire pit, alone, sipping something hot. He studied the curve of her lip at rest, the cadence of her breath, the way she held her mug, not to assess her mood, but to find something real. Still nothing. Then the next morning, chaos broke the retreat's meticulously curated control. One of the attendees, a junior diplomat from Brussels, was gone, vanished. No bags packed, no electronic trail in his room. On the mirror, scrawled in red lipstick, were the words, "You taught us too well." The staff panicked quietly, as they were trained to. The retreat was immediately put on soft lockdown, framed as a reflection exercise. Julian, shaken but outwardly calm, took the note and stared at it for a long time in the privacy of his study. "You taught us to wait." It wasn't the words that bothered him, it was the handwriting, slanted, methodical, controlled. A mimic's hand. Someone who had studied behavior at an obsessive level. And that night, as he led the group in a guided response exercise, his eyes caught Illyra's. She was watching him, not admiring, not analyzing, cataloging. And then she smiled, not too wide, not too warm. A smile meant to be seen, and Julian finally understood what scared him. It wasn't that he couldn't read her, it was that she was reading him. Eyes that see too much. Julian sat alone in the retreat's observation room, the lights low, the glass walls casting the room into a dim, water reflection of the mountain night on the screen before him. Footage of the race group sessions played in slow motion. He paused the video on Ilira's face, zoomed in, played it again. Still nothing. No flicker, no leak, no tail. Suddenly the room pulsed, like a single frame slotted in the film of reality. For a brief second, Ilira's face on the screen shifted, eyes dilated to pitch black, lips moving without sound. A chill laced up Julian's spine. He blinked hard, rewind the video. Normal. He shook his head, reached for his glass, but his fingers missed. The glass shattered on the floor. Second time this week. Over the next 2 days, the hallucination worsened. Subtle at first, shadows stretching where they shouldn't, faint whispers stitched into background noise. But then they came faster. A participant's face melting for a split second into his mother's. Irira appeared in doorways she never entered. One morning, he looked in the mirror and saw someone else's eyes in his reflection. Older, glassy, afraid. He stopped sleeping, he stopped eating. The gift that had defined his life, the neutral initiative capacity to detect truth through behavior, was slipping into something else, or maybe dying. Flashbacks returned like fever frames. A small room, pale green walls, a row of children sitting in silence, all watching videos on grainy monitors. Julian no more than 8. Wires attached to his temples, a woman in a lab coat says gently, "Look again, Julian. Tell me what she is thinking." The girl on screen smiles brightly. Julian shakes his head. She is going to cry. The woman writes something on her clipboard, smiles, "Good boy." Back at the retreat, Ilira was watching Julian closely, too closely. During a group trust exercise, she subtly adjusted the questions to put him on the spot. Publicly, she praised his insights. Privately, she probed his inconsistencies. At one point after the session, she gently touched his arm and said, "You look tired." Her tone wasn't concerned, it was confirmation. Later that night, she locked herself in her room, opened a heavily encrypted device, and recorded a voice memo. Subject: Julian Marr. Observation: neurological deterioration is accelerating, signs of dissociation, sensory misalignment, and mild paranoia. Conclusion: contact with origin memory is likely imminent. He doesn't remember yet, but he's getting close. Recommendation: initiate phase 2, awaiting approval. She paused before sending it. Her finger hovered over the transmit button, her face unreadable even to herself in the mirror. And then she whispered, "Forgive me." Click send. The ghost of those you have trained. Julian hadn't spoken to Kai Mar in over 4 years. The last anyone heard. Kai had disappeared after the Tokyo seminar, burned out, disillusioned, possibly suicidal. But now Kai stood in Julian's hotel room at 3:47 a.m., drenched in sweat, wild-eyed and shaking. "You shouldn't be alone," Kai said, voice low, body twitching like a trapped animal. "They'll come for you too, eventually, just like they came for me." Julian stared at him, struggling to reconcile the man before him with the prodigy he had once mentored. Kai used to be brilliant, too brilliant, with an eerie knack for reverse empathy, using people's tales against them before they even knew they would reveal anything. "You died," Julian said softly. Kai laughed, bitter, cracked. "No, I vanished. Disappearing was the only way to keep what was left of me intact." "Because Julian," he leaned closer, eyes blazing, "they are using your methods to rewrite people, personalities, identities, whole belief systems." Julian froze. "Who's they?" Kai pulled a tiny chip from his pocket, A fragment of corrupted data. Proof. He whispered, or what's left of it. But before Julian could respond, Kai's phone buzzed. One vibration, a single message, he looked down at the screen and blanched. They found me, he whispered. I stayed too long. He was gone minutes later. Out the window into the darkness, Julian never saw him again. Obsessed and shaken, Julian began digging, cross-referencing former students from old retreats, matching names against news alerts and social media shadows. One name came up again and again. Lucien Ames. Lucien had once been Julian's brightest student, charming, articulate, unnerving, charismatic. He had vanished 2 years earlier after a falling out with Julian over ethical limitations. Julian tracked Lucien to a remote compound in northern Arizona. On the surface, it appeared to be a wellness commune called the Mirror Path. But the deeper Julian looked, the more disturbing it became. Footage from drone scans showed hundreds of members engaged in behavioral pattern drills, eye contact, tone matching, and synthetic empathy rehearsal. All were modeled directly after Julian's original seminar method. Julian traveled there in secret, disguised, cautious, sleepless. What he saw inside broke something in him. The compound operated like a religion, but not one of faith, one of control. Lucien stood before his followers and spoke not as a man, but as an orchestra. Each person answered him with the same tone, the same mirrored phrasing. We are the reflection that cannot be manipulated. We are not ready, we read. We are the mirror path. Julian confronted Lucien in private. You have corrupted everything I taught you, Julian hissed. Lucien's smile was maddeningly calm. No, Julian, I have perfected it. You taught people how to respond. I have taught them how to never be read again. You created mirrors, I have built mirages. Then he leaned forward, and if you think I'm the only one, you are already lost. That night, Julian stood alone under a pale desert moon, staring at the cult compound behind him, and the hundreds of people whose very souls had been rearranged by the psychological tools he had created. He realized something that chilled him deeper than anything Kai or Lucien had said. His methods didn't just read behavior, they rewrote identity. And now they were in the wrong hands. Love is just another lie. Julian had always believed intimacy was just another social contract, negotiated, rehearsed, silently agreed upon. He could read attraction like a diagnostic scan. The dilation of pupils, micro pauses between words, the tiny lean of a shoulder in conversation. But with Ilira there were no signals, no predictable cues, and yet he couldn't stop circling her. The retreat was over, guests had left, the fog had lifted from the mountain, but it still lived inside Julian. Lyra curiously had stayed. When pressed, she said she wanted to observe him in his neutral environment. It was phrased like a compliment. They spent the evening in the library, its fire-lit warmth a fragrant cocoon of peace. Books lined the walls, most of them Julian's own, annotated, dog-eared, dissected. Ilira pulled one down, his first bestseller, and read a passage aloud. Empathy is a system. Anyone who tells you it's pure emotion is trying to sell you a version of themselves. She closed the book and looked at him. Do you believe that? Or did you write it because it sells? Julian titled his head. Does it matter? It does to me, she said, softer now. I don't trust anything I can't reverse engineer. A beat passed. Something vulnerable flickered across her face. Or was it paid? They drank wine, talked in low tones about past regrets, false start, and failed connections. She told him about a sister she lost, emotionally, not physically. She didn't die, she just stopped being someone I recognized. Ilira's voice caught slightly, a calculated hesitation, or a wound she forgot to hide. When Julian reached out to touch her hand, she didn't pull away. For a moment, the silence between them felt less like a stalemate and more like surrender. Then she said it. You stopped seeing your mother when you were 13, right? After the hospital fire. Julian froze. He hadn't mentioned that in any interview. It wasn't in his books. It wasn't even in his private notes. He looked at her. How do you know that? Elira didn't blink. You told me. No. He said slowly. Heartbeat spiking. I didn't. The room shifted, not physically, but perceptually. Like the floor had titled half a degree and nothing would ever sit level again. Julian stood. Who are you? Elira? She didn't answer. Instead, she said, I know what you think is happening to your mind. It's not madness. He stepped back. You have been watching me. Her gaze remained steady. Not just watching, studying long before this retreat. Before the books, before anyone knew your name. Julian's voice was ice. Why? Elira exhaled, regret almost surfacing. Because one day, Julian, you are going to remember. And when you do, you will need someone you already distrust to keep you from destroying yourself. She walked past him, slow and deliberate. At the door, she turned and, despite what you tell yourself, Julian, this thing between us, it's real. I just don't know if that makes it safer or more dangerous. She left him alone in the firelight, his past bleeding into the present, and the last remaining line between trust and betrayal vanishing into smoke. The clinic files. The building was buried in his woods, long forgotten by design. A weathered concrete shell veined with ivy, its windows blacked out and sealed from the inside. No signs, no name, just coordinates pulled from an anonymous email Julian received at 3:14 a.m. Subject line: You are born here, body. They never expected you to come back. Julian entered with bolt cutlers and a flashlight. The air inside was thick with mildew and dust, untouched for years. The walls were lined with rusting filing cabinets, stripped shelves, and toppled equipment. Monitors with cracked screens, restrained chairs left in place like ghosts had just stepped out of them. Then he found the vault. A reinforced steel door hidden behind a false panel in the floor, marked with a symbol he didn't recognize at first. A geometric eye enclosed in a triangle, stamped with two words, Observer Initiative. His fingers rammed as he entered the only password he could imagine, Mar. A click, the vault opened. Inside, rows of storage units, files, disks, data cores, medical records, brain scans. His dozens of them, some from when he was barely 6 years old. The name on the files wasn't always Julian Mark. Some were labeled Subject 47A. Others were marked Reactive Cognition Protocol, Live Trial. He played one of the archived video logs. A child him were two biometric sensors, eyes tracking rapid sequences of human faces on a screen. A disembodied voice asked calmly, What is she hiding, Julian? She's going to scream, the boy said. Why? Because the smile isn't real. She's lying with her mouth, not her hands. The screen cut to black. Another file revealed a list of neural calibration points, location in the brain marked for electrical stimulation. All the activity centered around the amygdala and prefrontal cortex. Emotion processing, empathy regulation, decision making under stress. This wasn't an observation, it was designed. Ilira's words echoed in his mind. You are never supposed to be free. He collapsed against a wall. breathing heavy, surrounded by the proof that his entire identity, his gift, may not have been evolution but fabrication. He pulled out one last file, notes. Eval subject 47A, typed in blocky. Subject initiative, predictive patterning, exercise projection. Conscious control is emerging too early. Risk of psychological destabilization is high. Recommend partial wipe. Reinitiate under civilian observation. At the bottom, a signature redacted in thick black ink except for one line below it. Approved by D. Well. Julian stared. Well, Elira's last name. He didn't know if it was a coincidence or the confirmation he feared most. He backed out of the room slowly, flashlight beam trembling across the walls. As he reached the exit, something else caught his eye. A photo, torn in half, pinned behind a broken panel of glass. It was a group of researchers standing outside the faculty in lab coats. Blurry, faded, but they're unmistakably off to the side. Younger, hurrier, longer. Elira watching the boy who would one day become Julian from the very beginning. Under the mask, another mask. Julian had always trusted Marcel. For over 7 years, she would be in the backbone of his private research, creating files, waiting students, managing the flow of information like a surgeon handles veins. Precise, unquestioning, invisible in all the right ways. She wasn't just his assistant, she was his confidant, his gatekeeper, his last thread to normalcy. Which is why the betrayal split him open. It started small, a database anomaly, old neuroresponse scans had been duplicated and relabeled. Key details altered. Then a report from a private investigator Julian had hired weeks ago, quietly without telling anyone. Marcel had been funneling data to an entity listed only as Division Black. Julian confronted her in the archive vault. No cameras, just concrete walls, silence, and years of trust between them like glass stretched to its limit. Marcel didn't deny it. I was recruited before I ever met you, she said calmly. They told me you were dangerous. Your methods had already destabilized several high-risk individuals, that I needed to monitor you from the inside. Julian couldn't speak. His mouth was dry, his hands trembled slightly. Not with fear, but with the sting of betrayal. You told me everything, he whispered. I had to, she said. And I kept you alive because I saw who you really are. You are not the weapon they thought you would become. Not yet. And Elira? He asked. Is she part of it too? Marcel paused. Worse. That night Elira came to him, she didn't knock. Julian sat in the dark of his study, the fireplace dying to embers. He didn't look up when he entered, but she spoke without waiting. She was right about me and wrong. Julian's jaw clenched. You are with Division Black? No, Elira said. I was placed by Division Black, but I was never working for them. She stepped into the firelight, slowly, deliberately. I'm with a shadow unit that monitors rogue behavior tech. What your work evolved into when it left your hands, Prism, is just the surface layer. Division Black is their disposal arm. But I was embedded to make sure something worse didn't happen. Julian turned, voice like broken glass. And what would that be? Elira's eyes were tired now, older than he would ever seen them. You, Julian, if your memories come back too fast or out of order, there's a chance you could fracture. They designed you for pattern recognition so advanced. It borders on predictive manipulation. But if your mind breaks open before you are ready, you won't just read people anymore. You will rewrite them. Julian stood. Stop lying to me. I'm not, she said. Voice sharp, close to something like desperation. Marcel was here to observe and contain. I was here to intervene, and I have been delaying the order to terminate you for 3 years. A long silence passed between them. The word terminate hung in the air like poison. Then she added, almost brokenly, you think you have been unraveling, but what you are feeling. It's not madness, it's memory. Someone erased parts of you. Julian, someone powerful. And now, it's all starting to come back. Julian turned away, trying to slow his breath, trying to quiet the pounding in his head. Voices distant and layered, whispered just beneath the hold of awareness. He looked back at her. Why me? Elira's voice dropped to a whisper. Because you were never supposed to be free. The air inside the underground prison facility was cold, sterile, an antiseptic tomb built for secrets. Julian's footsteps echoed against steel walls as armed guards flanked him into a stark interrogation chamber, but in harsh white light. Behind the thick glass, shadowy figures observed, faceless and impassive. A voice, smooth and controlled, broke the silence. Dr. Marr, we have been watching your evolution. Your resistance is impressive, but it's time to embrace what you were made for. A man stepped forward, tall, dressed, with eyes that seemed to pierce Julian's very thoughts. The director of Prism. We offer you a choice. Join us as the lead architect of global influence. Help us refine the psychological algorithm that controls society's tipping points, or be erased. Julian's mind raced. The weight of years, the betrayals, the disappearances, the loss of students all came crashing down. What does erased mean? He asked, voice steady despite the storm inside. The director's smile was cold. Permanent removal from existence, your research, your memories, your patience gone. Julian glanced at the observation window, and there among the cold faces he saw her, Elira, the woman who had stalked his past and guarded his fragile present. But something was different now. Her posture was rigid, her eyes were unreadable. The director continued, think carefully, Julian. We wield power beyond your imagination. Your gift was only the beginning. With us, you can shape humanity or be discarded like a failed prototype. No answer came. Instead, Julian seized a momentary lapse, slamming his fist into a control panel, triggering alarms. Chaos erupted. He darted through corridors, dodging guards and locking doors behind him. The facility's map flooded his mind. Memories pieced together like a puzzle. Reaching a hidden elevator, Julian found files labeled Prism Command Leadership. His breath caught. One file bore a photograph, Elira wearing the emblem of Prism. Underneath, a single word, Commander. His head spun. Had Elira once led very organization hunting him? Was her mission protection, manipulation, or something darker? As alarm blared and footsteps closed in, Julian knew two things. The lines between enemy and ally had shattered, and the woman who challenged everything he believed wasn't just a player. She was the game itself. His greatest lie. Julian had always trusted his mind. It was his greatest asset and his most intimate ally, until the day it betrayed him. The MRI machine hummed quietly, its cold tube a cocoon of sterile light and forgiving science. Julian lay inside, eyes closed, trying to steady the storm swirling in his thoughts. Elira had insisted on his scan. We need answers, she said. Minute later, the neurologist's face was pale, eyes wide beneath thick-rimmed glasses. Dr. Marr, she said carefully, this isn't just neuroimaging. On the screen deep within the folds of his brain, something gleamed unnaturally, a tiny metallic chip no larger than a grain of rice, implanted, connected to intricate wiring that interfaced with key regions, his amygdala, prefrontal cortex, and auditory centers. Julian's breath caught. Is this controlling me? The doctor shook her head slowly. We don't know who controls it, but the technology matches classified black ops implants designed for remote neural modulation. The room spun. His heart hammered with a terror so profound it was almost physical. For years, he had believed his gift was natural, an evolutionary anomaly, a neurological marvel. But now the truth was impossible to ignore. He was engineered, not born. His uncanny ability to read people wasn't a gift. It was a programmed function, activated, honed, and possibly manipulated by unknown hands. He remembered Illyria's words from months ago. You are never supposed to be free. Was he ever free? Had his thought, emotions, even his memories been artificially sculpted? Had he ever truly chosen anything? The realization tore at him. A puppet built to read puppets. A marionette tangled in a string he couldn't see, controlled by operators hidden in the shadows. He stumbled from the clinic, mind reeling. Every conversation, every response, every perfect social interaction now felt hollow. An act performed under unseen direction. In a fractured voice, he whispered to the empty corridor, "Who am I, if not myself?" And in the silence, a distant echo answered. The world believed Julian Marr was broken. His once razor-sharp mind had shattered beneath the weight of revelation. News outlets reported his public meltdown after a live interview devolved into incoherent rambling. Social media buzzed with theories, burnout, psychosis, or worse. But behind the scenes, Julian was performing the most intricate manipulation of all, the disappearance of the man who could read anyone. In a dimly lit basement beneath an abandoned warehouse, Julian gathered a small group, faces once eager student, now battle-scared survivor of Prism's dark experiments. Their eyes held shadows of lost innocence and flickers of renewed purpose. This isn't just about survival, Julian told them, voice low and steady. It's about reclaiming who we are. We are weapons. They broke us, but together we can be more. He taught them new strategies, how to mask their true thoughts, how to detect the subtle manipulation prism used to control them. More importantly, how to reclaim their autonomy. Outside, the world saw a man reveling. Inside, Julian built a fortress of minds no one could infiltrate. The key became unreadable. His gift, the ability to dissect and predict human behavior, had become a liability. He deliberately shattered that perception, creating a persona so erratic, so unpredictable that even Prism's most advanced operatives couldn't anticipate his next move. But the cracks within the resistance ran deep. Old fears, buried traumas, and lurking spies threatened to undo their fragile unity. One night, as Julian reviewed the coded message from his contact, a new threat emerged. An encrypted file with one chilling phrase, "The reader is blind." It was a warning from Illyria. "The liar survives." The world was watching. Illyria stood in the cold, clinical courtroom flanked by Prism operatives, who now called themselves judges and jury. The charges were grave: psychological manipulation endangering national security. But her expression was unreadable, a mask perfected over years in shadows. Julian watched from backstage, heart pounding beneath the weight of everything lost and gained. This was his moment, the chance to expose Prism's corruption and reclaim the truth. The live broadcast began. Julian stepped forward, face calm and eyes burning with fierce conviction. Today, the world will learn the truth about Prism, an organization built on lies, manipulation, and control. Their reach extends into governments, corporations, and the very minds of the people. Footage rolled. Secret meetings altered memories, testimonies from reformed students. Gasps rippled through the audience. The facade was cracking. Then, just as the verdict was about to be announced, Lyra smiled, a slow, deliberate smile. "Before you condemn me," she said, voice calm, almost amused. "Consider this: I am the architect of Prism's survival." The courtroom erupted in chaos. Security scrambled. Julian's world titled. She continued, "I never stopped leading Prism. I am Prism." Cameras zoomed in as she unveiled evidence, hidden dossiers revealing covert operations Julian never knew existed. Funds funneled through shell corporations, even a black ledger listing Julian as the organization's prized asset. Julian's breath caught. She leaned closer, eyes piercing through the screen, speaking directly to him in a whisper only he could hear. "You only think you read me." Julian smiled faintly, a mixture of admiration and resignation. "Maybe." Illyria's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. "You only think you did." Cut to black. There you have it, the core secrets behind reading and responding to people like a pro. Remember, it's not about manipulation, it's about connection and understanding on a whole new level. If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Drop your craziest reading people story in the comments. I read every single one. And hey, if you want more deep dives into body language, psychology hacks, and communication mastery, hit subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss out. Thanks for listening, and here's your reminder, people don't just say things, they show them. Are you ready to see what they mean? See you next time.